I was driving from Denver to Portland to spend Christmas with my sister's family. It wasn't the smartest decision, considering the storm warnings that week, but I didn't have much of a choice. My cat, Milo, doesn't handle boarding well. Last time he stopped eating for 2 days, so I decided to take him along for the drive. The first leg of the trip was surprisingly peaceful. Clear skies, good music, and Milo curled up in his carrier beside me. But the second morning, as I was leaving Boise, I woke up to a sky that looked bruised and heavy. Within an hour, the snow started falling in thick, wet clumps. I figured if I kept driving west, I could outrun the storm. I was wrong. The snow came down faster, wind whipping across the highway, and soon I was the only car on the road. The GPS showed miles of nothing ahead. No towns, no rest stops, just a long stretch through the Blue Mountains. After another hour of white-knuckled driving, I decided to stop for the night. I wasn't going to risk sliding off a mountain road just to make good time. That's when I saw it, a faded sign barely visible through the snow. Driftwood Motel, vacancy. It sat just off the highway, half buried under snow. A single flickering light over the office door was the only sign of life. There were no other buildings around, no sound except the wind and the creaking of the motel sign as it swayed. I pulled into the lot and left the car running to keep Milo warm. Only one other vehicle was there, an old green pickup, snow piled up around the tires. The office door was locked. I knocked, then tried peering through the fogged glass. Inside, I could just make out a dusty counter, a coffee maker, and a row of keys hanging behind the desk. No movement, no one. That's when I heard footsteps crunching behind me. 2 men were walking across the lot, bundled in dark coats. I didn't even hear them approach over the wind. They were coming from the direction of the highway. No headlights, no car that I could see. "Hey," one of them called. "You staying here too?" Something about their tone made my stomach twist. It wasn't friendly, more like testing the waters. No, I said, backing a little toward my car. "Looks closed." "Damn," the other one muttered. "Our truck broke down a few miles back. You got any gas you could spare?" It didn't sound right. The pickup in the lot was probably theirs, and it didn't look broken down. I mumbled something about not having a gas can and tried to sidestep them, but one of them mirrored my movement like he was blocking me. "Come on," he said, stepping closer. "We're freezing out here." His face was pale, almost gray in the motel light, and the other guy just stared at me, silent. I felt my pulse start to race. I reached for my keys in my pocket before realizing they were still in the ignition, inside the car. "I'm sorry," I blurted out. "I really can't help," and made a quick, wide circle around them. They followed, boots crunching faster through the snow. I yanked open the driver's door, jumped in, and hit the lock just as one of them reached for the handle. Milo hissed, his fur standing on end. One of the men started pounding on my window. "Hey, don't be like that. We just need a little help." His voice cracked, angry now, not desperate. The other stood behind him, his face just barely visible through the frost, a smirk spreading across it. I didn't wait. I threw the car in reverse, skidding slightly as I backed out of the lot and shot back onto the highway. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped my phone when I tried to dial 911. The dispatcher kept me on the line until I reached a gas station about 30 minutes later. I gave them the location, described the men, and stayed in the car with the doors locked until an officer called me back. He said they'd gone out there. No one was at the motel. No truck in the lot, not even footprints. That detail stuck with me. I know I saw their tracks coming across the snow toward me. I saw their boots leaving fresh prints. The officer said maybe the wind had covered them up. Maybe I was mistaken. But when I went to grab a snack from my glove compartment later that night, I froze. On the inside of my window, the one that man had been pounding on, was a faint, oily handprint. Too high up for me. Too big to be mine. I wiped it away, but I swear, even hours later, as I lay awake in that cheap motel room miles away, I could still see the shape of his fingers in the glass. Every time the headlights of a passing car flickered across the window. I've been skiing practically my whole life. My dad used to coach professionally, and my mom competed in local races before they met. So winter sports were sort of in our DNA. My siblings and I grew up on the slopes, and by the time I turned 21, I was as comfortable on skis as I was on solid ground. This happened 3 winters ago, during my senior year at Colorado State. My friends and I decided to spend a long weekend skiing in Breckenridge, since none of us had been there before. It was supposed to be our last college break trip before graduation. Just 4 friends, a cheap Airbnb, and endless runs. It was me, Eli, Marcus, and Trent. The first 2 days went off without a hitch. The weather was perfect, cold but clear, and we'd been tearing up every trail we could find. Breckenridge is huge, and even after 2 full days, we hadn't come close to covering it all. On the second afternoon, after a few too many sips from the flask Marcus kept tucked in his jacket, we decided to tackle a few of the harder runs before the lifts closed. We were laughing, half drunk and exhausted, but still trying to squeeze every last thrill out of the trip. At the top of the Imperial Express lift, we stopped to catch our breath. That's when 2 girls skied over to us. They weren't wearing helmets, which struck me as odd, considering how intense the terrain up there was. One had jet black hair tied into a braid, the other, a reddish blonde ponytail. Both of them looked like they'd just stepped out of a ski magazine, confident, athletic, and stunning. They introduced themselves as Lena and Brooke and asked if we were locals. When we told them we were just visiting, Lena laughed and said, "That explains it. Everyone else here skis like they're 90. It was a fair point. Most of the people on that side of the mountain looked like experienced adults, not a bunch of reckless college kids. Brooke asked Marcus about his skis. He had custom Volcals, and they chatted about wax types and bindings like they were pros. Eli and I exchanged amused looks. Something about the girl's confidence was captivating. Then Brooke pulled out a silver flask from her coat and grinned. "You guys are sharing that grocery store whiskey, huh? Try something real." Marcus was first to take a swig, of course. He coughed but smiled, saying it burned way better. They passed it around. Trent took a small drink. Eli refused, and when it came to me, I pretended to sip. I wasn't trying to kill the vibe, but something about the bottle felt off. It was unmarked, heavy, cold. After a few more minutes of joking around, Lena asked, "Have you guys ever done Raven's Hollow?" None of us had heard of it. "It's kind of a secret run," she said. "It's not on the main map anymore. They closed it years ago because of avalanche risk, but it's safe this season. Locals still do it all the time." She pointed to a small gap in the tree line just beyond the boundary rope. "Now, most skiers know not to cross ropes. It's one of the golden rules." But Marcus, already buzzed, just grinned and said, "Lead the way." Eli shot me a look, the kind that said, "This is stupid." But it was 4 guys and 2 pretty girls. No one wanted to be the one who said no. We unclipped our skis and started hiking uphill toward the tree line. The snow was untouched. No tracks, no sound except the wind between the pines. After about 10 minutes, the girls stopped at the top of a narrow slope cutting through the forest. "This is it," Lena said. "Raven's Hollow." Brooke pulled the flask out again. "One more round before we go." This time, Eli said firmly, "No thanks. We've got to make it back before the lifts close." For just a second, a flicker. Brooke's smile disappeared. Her expression hardened, then returned to normal so fast, I almost thought I imagined it. Marcus laughed and took another long drink. Trent followed. I pretended again, letting it touch my lips, but not swallowing. The girls didn't drink at all. We started down the slope. Lena and Brooke in front, Marcus and Trent right behind them, Eli and I taking up the rear. The glade was steep and narrow, trees crowding in from both sides. It was quiet, too quiet. No chatter, no lift noise, just the whisper of snow under our skis. Halfway down, Marcus fell. At first, I thought he'd just caught an edge. But when I stopped beside him, his eyes were rolled back. "Marcus, hey man." Before I could finish, Trent went down too, his body limp in the snow. "What the hell?" Eli started, but then froze. The girls had stopped ahead of us, watching, not moving, not helping. "What did you give them?" Eli shouted. His voice echoed through the trees. Lena tilted her head. "They'll be fine." My heart dropped. I could feel it. Whatever they'd given them was kicking in fast. My own stomach churned, but I hadn't swallowed enough to feel the effects fully. I could barely process what was happening. Eli started toward them, but before he got 2 steps, his knees buckled. He collapsed face first in the snow. That left me. Lena and Brooke stood there, emotionless. Brooke finally muttered, "You didn't drink." They dropped their poles, took Marcus and Trent's skis, and started dragging them toward the edge of the forest. I tried to stand, but my legs felt like cement. I sat there in the cold, forcing myself to stay awake, watching as they disappeared into the trees. It must have been 20 minutes before I could move again. I stumbled to my feet and followed the tracks through the snow until I reached a narrow access road. Down below, I saw a white van idling, back doors open. 3 men were waiting outside it. Lena and Brooke motioned toward me before throwing the skis in the back. One of the men pointed right at me. I turned and bolted. I didn't look back. I don't know how far I ran, only that somehow I ended up back near one of the service huts. A ski patrol truck was parked there, and I banged on the door until someone came out. The cops were called. Marcus and Trent were found half an hour later, both unconscious, both alive. But the girls and the van were gone. The sheriff later told us Ravens Hollow hadn't been an active trail in over 15 years. The area was off limits for a reason. There were no patrols, no cameras, no lift access. They said they'd look for the women. I never heard anything again. To this day, every time I see an unmarked flask, I get a chill. Because somewhere out there, maybe still working the same mountain, are two women who know exactly how to make someone disappear and how to make it look like they were never even there. I'm 25 now, but this happened about 2 winters ago, just a couple weeks before Christmas. At the time, I lived alone in a small apartment in Minneapolis, but my job was out in Maple Grove, almost 40 minutes away. I worked in property management, which meant my hours were all over the place. Sometimes 6 a.m. openings, sometimes 11 p.m. closings. This night was one of those late ones. The snow had started around sunset and never really stopped. By the time I locked up the office, there was a soft white blanket across the parking lot. I remember the sound, that muffled silence that only comes during heavy snow. I brushed off my windshield, started the engine, and waited for the heater to kick in. It was 11:08 p.m. The drive started fine, just slow. The roads hadn't been plowed yet, and my tires kept slipping every so often. I wasn't nervous exactly, just tense, gripping the wheel, trying to stay between the invisible lanes. About 20 minutes in, the highway narrowed to a 2-lane back road surrounded by dark pine trees. That's when my car slid. It happened so slowly, but I didn't even panic at first. Just a quiet glide sideways, then a soft thud into the snowbank. My front bumper dipped into a shallow ditch, the wheel spinning uselessly when I tried to reverse. No crunch, no damage, just stuck. I sighed, threw my hat on, and stepped out into the cold. The snow was almost knee-deep near the ditch, and it only took a few seconds for my fingers to start stinging. As I stood there debating whether to call a tow truck, a pair of headlights appeared in the distance. A silver Ford F-150 slowed as it approached and rolled down its window. "You all right?" a man asked. He looked to be in his late 30s. Dark beard, a hunting jacket, baseball cap. "I slid off the road," I said. "I think I'm stuck." He nodded. "I've got chains and a hitch at my place, just a few minutes up the road. I can pull you out." "No problem. Give me 5 minutes." Honestly, it was a relief. A tow would have cost a couple $100 and taken forever. "Yeah, thank you," I said. He smiled. "Keep your hazards on. I'll be right back." The truck drove off into the snow. I climbed back into my car, cranked the heat, and watched the snowfall blur my headlights. The longer I sat there, the more uncertain I felt. Who just leaves to grab equipment for a stranger at midnight in a snowstorm? 5 minutes passed, then 10. I started second-guessing myself. Maybe I should just call roadside assistance anyway, or even 911, just to be safe. I had just picked up my phone when something slammed against the driver's side window. I jumped so hard I dropped it. A man was standing there, face half covered by a scarf, snow dusting his shoulders, 2 jackets, hood up, breathing heavy. I cracked the window an inch. "Hi, can I help you?" He didn't answer. He just stared. His skin was pale, eyes wide. "I'm okay," I said quickly. Someone's already helping me. He leaned closer, fogging the glass with his breath. Then I heard it click. The sound was so faint that for a second, I thought it came from the car heater, until the door handle jerked upward. He was trying to open the door. I slammed the window shut, but his gloved hand shot through the gap, slapping against the inside lock. He popped it open before I could react. The door flew wide, and the cold hit me like a wall. He grabbed my wrist, trying to pull me out. I screamed and kicked, twisting toward the passenger side, but he was stronger. His grip felt deliberate, not frantic, not random. Like this wasn't the first time. He dragged me halfway out into the snow before another light cut through the dark. A beam so bright it washed everything in white. Headlights. The man froze, then bolted. He sprinted toward the trees, vanishing into the dark as the sound of an engine drew near. A voice yelled, "You all right?" It was the man from before, the one with the truck. He threw it into park and ran toward me, slipping his jacket off as he did. "I told you I'd be back," he said, wrapping it around my shoulders. I was shaking so hard I could barely answer. He called 911 from his phone while I sat in the passenger seat of his truck, still crying, still trying to understand what had just happened. When the police arrived, they searched the woods for nearly an hour. They found footprints, 2 sets, but no one else. It wasn't until the next morning, when I picked my car up from the impound lot, that the worst part hit me. There were fingerprints on the passenger door, smudges of dirt and salt where someone had tried the handle, maybe while I was still waiting for the truck to return. The detective who took my statement said they'd run the prints, but I never heard back. A few days later, I bought the man who helped me, Eric, as I later learned, a gift card and some cookies to say thank you. He just smiled and said, "I'm glad I got there when I did. That should have been the end of it." But here's what keeps me up sometimes. The police told me they'd checked the area for security cameras or license plate readers and found nothing. Eric's address wasn't actually on that road. It was across town. When I called the number he'd given me to thank him again a week later, it was disconnected. Every so often, when I drive home late in winter and see headlights in my mirror, I catch myself wondering, what if he hadn't been there to save me? Or worse, what if there was never more than one man out there that night?